The universe kept many stories. Some things were remembered for ages. Other things were left alone. Earth became one of those forgotten places. For years it slept under cloud and dust. Arya Malik's scout fell through the clouds like a slow thought. The ship was small and patched. Arya had never been to Earth. She knew the maps and the old stories. She knew the command, check signal. The signal was weak and patient. The scout found ruin first. Towers rose like broken teeth. Grass flowed over the roads. The air smelled of salt and old smoke. Arya walked a wide boulevard. Her boots made soft sounds on cracked stone. A child's toy rolled past her and stopped. In the city center, a small device sat on a raised stone. It looked like a loaf of bread, but old and smooth. Arya reached out. The device woke and breathed light. The light cut through cloud and dark. It sent a thin line into the sky. The line carried one clear name, Earth. Far away, the human fleet felt the pulse. Engines moved. Ships turned toward that blue point on old maps. The fleet became a single thought coming home. For many, the name on the screen made hands tense. For others, it felt like a prayer. The pulse did not only touch human ears. The Vexiant coalition found it in their deep arrays. To the Vexiant, a forgotten Earth was a loose end. Loose ends should be tied. Their admiral looked at the signal and chose his answer with calm hands. He thought of trophies and old grudges. Arya felt the wind in a broken window. She felt the device warm under her palm. The beacon showed pictures. Faces laughing on beaches. Cities full of light. Strange machines that bent the sky. For a moment the beacon flashed a revealed object, a metal mirror, quick and bright. The device did not explain. It only showed. Her radio crackled. Scout Malik, do you copy? Identify beacon. The fleet voice was steady. Arya's mouth was dry. She answered, beacon live. Location secure. Sending data. Her hands shook when she sent the images. The scout relayed the map, the plaza, the device. The fleet saw a place it had kept in memory. It felt a strong pull. Across the void, Vexiant ships shifted. Their forms were long and sharp. They did not speak of memory. They spoke of order. Their message to the city was short, leave. Arya read the message and thought of the fleet moving like slow thunder. She thought of the small light under her hand. She thought of the children she had never met. Home could be simple again, she thought, but that thought hit the hard fact of the Vexiant shadow above. She had minutes. Minutes let a person meet many lives. Arya placed her palm on the beacon again. The device answered with sound and images like a map. It offered a truth that tasted like iron. Earth had been hidden on purpose. Someone had set the sleep. Someone had left a key. A Vexiant shuttle drifted down and opened a black window. A capsule fell and thudded on a plaza stone. Steam hissed. A voice from the capsule said one line with no room for questions, leave. Arya looked at the capsule and at the fleet coordinates in her console. She felt very small and very wide. She could run. She could wait. She could press the beacon and call every human ship near and far. She could also touch the secret buried under earth and learn if it was weapon or promise. She did not choose war. She did not choose fear. Her answer was a small, steady thing that would echo. We are here to stay, she said. Deep in the fleet, Commander Havel watched incoming data with a face that did not show much. He had ancestors who once walked Earth. He saw a plaza, a device, a single pulse. He felt a memory like a quiet ache. Havel ordered ships forward. He did not ask why. Some answers would come later. For now, he wanted boots on the ground and flags on stone. On the Vexiant bridge, Admiral Koreth felt a different urge. He saw opportunity. A forgotten fleet might be weak. He thought of treaties and how easy it is to change maps with teeth. His hand closed on the arm of his chair. "Prepare a warning," he said. "Make them no cost of returning now." The capsule hissed again. Vexiant guns turned. The beacon shone brighter. The fleet engines burned like a promise. Two histories leaned toward each other over a ruined city. The planet that had been forgotten stood tall enough to be remembered. The universe held its breath. The human fleet hung above Earth like a ring of tired stars. Ships drifted in careful orbits. Small craft dropped like petals to the city Arya had found. Commander Havel watched from the Indomitable with tired eyes. He felt the weight of many ancestors in his bones. He had brought engineers, medics, and a single thing more than people, a plain flag, stitched from old cloth and new hope. On the ground, Arya stood in the plaza with the beacon still warm under her hand. Her suit smelled faintly of dust and sea. Around her, her small landing team moved slow and careful. They found toys, books, a broken bicycle with one wheel frozen in time. Each object was a quiet proof that a life had been here. When Havel's boots hit stone, the whole fleet listened. The flag unfolded. It was simple: white lines, blue globe, a tiny star stitched by someone who had never seen Earth. A young corporal planted the pole in a crack. The flag did not roar. It fluttered like a promise. Cameras sent the image back to the fleet. A cheer moved through channels like a soft tide. People cried. Old songs played. For one bright hour the fleet felt whole. Then the engineers found the hatch. It was half hidden under ivy in the park. A ring of metal teeth closed an entrance like a jaw. Havel ordered calm. He sent the team with the slow tools and patient hands. They opened the hatch and found stairs that went down into real cold. The air smelled of old oil and rain that fell before memory. The underground was not empty. It was a room full of glass and screens, books in many tongues, and a single vault door that kept its secrets like a sleeping animal. On the wall, a map showed dark lines and a red mark, a place labeled in a language that had once been common, Archive 1. The human scientists moved with a hunger that looked like fear. They read logs left by hands that no longer moved. The logs spoke in short phrases: hide, sleep, protect. One line made a small group go very still: if found, reveal only to those who carry the blood of home. An alien ship drifted above the city. A small shuttle lowered from its belly. From it walked an envoy in pale armor. The envoy's name was Ambassador Thal. Thal's voice folded into the plaza like a long blade. He did not hide his anger. He claimed the fleet had broken a treaty. He demanded the humans leave and give the archive to the Vexiant for study. Havel replied with steady calm. He said, "Earth is home. The flag stands. The humans will not leave." Ambassador Thal's face did not change. He gave them 2 days to hand over the vault. The words landed like cold rain. Inside the vault, the team found machines that hummed like slow whales. They found a mirror the size of a door. It was metal, but it did not smell like anything. When the lights touched its surface, they saw not a reflection but 1,000 shivering images: ruins, battles, a child crying, a great ship folding like origami. The mirror showed things that felt like other people's memories. A technician named Lien reached to touch it. The mirror did not bite. It whispered history into her head. She staggered back and her hands shook. Havel read the archive text that came with the mirror. The words were careful: "This device shows truth and fear. It forces a mind to meet itself. It was made to stop empires that conquer by fear alone." Not everyone believed the line. Some humans thought it was a weapon. Some thought it was a test. Debate cut through the camp. A faction wanted to hide the mirror again. Another wanted to use it as a shield, to teach others to stop before they strike. Ambassador Thal watched from orbit. He sent a message with sharp edges: hand over the mirror, or face consequences. His commanders whispered about power. They wanted the mirror on a shelf in their museums. But not all watchers were patient. A Vexiant warlord, farther away and hungry for trophies, learned of the mirror. He read the beacon's images and tasted victory. He ordered a force to move fast. He did not wait for diplomats. He liked the idea of taking an answer for himself. Back on Earth, Havel called a council. He had Arya beside him, her hair still smelling of rain. He had Lien who had seen the mirror, and old Captain Mara who fought in the quiet wars. They argued in simple words. The choice was a hard one: hand the device to the Vexiant for safety, hide it where no one could touch, or use it as a warning. Lien said softly, "It does not kill. It shows. It can stop a mind from wanting war." Her voice was small, but a few faces turned to her like iron to a lamp. Someone else said, "And what if it breaks minds? What if it makes things worse?" Havel put his palms on the table. He thought of the flag in the wind. He thought of the fleet watching, ready to obey. He thought of the Vexiant ultimatum and the warlord moving in secret. He chose a path that kept the fleet whole for the moment. They would not hand it over. They would move the mirror to a stronger vault and ask for time to understand. That night a small ship flashed on the horizon. It moved with a speed that tasted like fire. It did not send a message. The Vexiant warlord had come early. His guns were not polite. They pointed at the city like accusing fingers. Alarms screamed and the plaza filled with light and smoke. Havel barked orders. Engineers braced the vault. Arya pulled a child into a shelter as debris rained. Ambassador Thal's envoy swore at the warlord's move. He had not asked for this either, and his fleet split between blame and duty. On the Indomitable, a new set of orders ran across the deck. Havel looked at screens where star maps showed a small red line drawing closer. He felt the map of the galaxy tilt under his feet. He thought of simple things: flag, home, children. Then he gave the order he hoped he would never say: arm the defense. The fleet would not strike first. But if the warlord chose to fire, the fleet would answer with force. Down in the vault, the mirror sat silent like a sleeping thing. It waited for hands and for eyes. Outside, the sky burned with more ships than anyone wanted. The city that had been a proof of the past now stood at the heart of a possible future war. The flag still fluttered. It looked fragile. It looked stubborn. Somewhere across the black, treaties shifted like sand. Somewhere close, a warlord smiled because the map was changing. Earth had raised its flag. The universe would soon decide what that flag meant. The night after the first shots, the city smelled of smoke and oil. People moved in small groups. They did not speak loud. The Vexiant warlord's ships hung like dark teeth over the skyline. Commander Havel kept his face calm, but his sleep came in short pieces. Under the flag, the camp turned into a fortress. Engineers built barriers from broken cars and fallen beams. Medics set tents where a park had been. Arya walked the lines and watched the faces of sailors who had never seen Earth before. They looked at the ruins as if they tried to read a book with many missing pages. Inside the vault, the mirror waited. Lien sat before it and closed her eyes. She had seen things. The mirror showed her memories that were not hers and yet felt true. The mirror had shown her a woman who made a hard choice, a child who hid a secret, a machine that could change a mind. Lien felt the images settle like dust. She told Havel quietly, "It shows what we fear and what we were. It is not a weapon that kills. It is a weapon that forces truth." Some officers believed Lien. Others feared the mirror's power. Captain Mara said, "We should not let any one people hold this. If the Vexiant get it, they will use it to break whole peoples." The word break made the engineers tighten their hands on tools. While diplomats argued, the warlord moved. Warlord Sarn commanded a band of raiders who did not wait for orders or laws. He saw the mirror as a prize that would make his name loud in the galaxy. He gathered a strike force and slipped through the fringe of Vexian space. His ships were fast and cruel. Havel planned a move of his own. He could not risk the mirror in a city now under fire. He decided to move it to a deeper bunker on the other side of the continent, where old rail tunnels ran like veins under the earth. The move had to be quiet. The convoy would travel at night with a small escort. Havel chose a team of soldiers who trusted each other and who knew how to move in the dark. Arya was on that team. She did not want to leave the plaza, but she wanted to protect whatever lay below. Liane went too. She clutched a data slate that held the archive's last lines. Captain Mara watched from the gate as the convoy left. The city lights winked like nervous stars. They did not go far before the sky split. Sarn's raiders struck with speed. Explosions threw up old stone and glass. The convoy scattered. Men and women fought hand to hand in streets that had not seen such violence in a long time. Arya fired and ducked and ran. She saw a child slip under an overturned truck and pulled the child out with one hand as a bolt of fire cracked over the place where the flag had been. The mirror was in a crate, wrapped in old blanket and foam. 2 soldiers carried it between them. A flash of light from above made one soldier drop. The crate fell, slid on stone, and came open. The mirror did not lie flat. It tilted and caught the light. For a single heartbeat, the mirror showed the raiders their own faces, older, hollow, full of failures. Some shouted and turned away. Others laughed at their fear. Sarn himself stepped forward. He wanted the mirror with hunger in his eyes. He threw a length of chain and ripped it from the hands of a soldier. He held the metal like a king taking a crown. For a moment, no one moved. The mirror hummed low, and the air felt like the pause between a drum and its echo. Then Arya saw Sarn's face change. He who had eaten worlds of names now looked like a child who had lost a toy. The mirror did not break Sarn. It showed him a memory of a room that smelled of salt and a woman who told him no, and the sound of boots leaving. Sarn flinched. Rage twisted his features. He struck the mirror with a fist. The metal rang, not like glass but like a note deep in a cave. Sarn had not expected the mirror to breathe memory. He had expected a prize. The mirror had surprised him. He lashed out and brought a blade down on the mirror's edge. Sparks flew. The mirror did not shatter. It bent, like a bow that held tension. Men screamed and fought. The convoy split and ran. In the chaos, a small skiff rose and took Sarn away. He had the mirror half in his hands and blood on his knuckles. Arya chased but could not reach the skiff. She watched him disappear into the dark sky. A shout went up that he had a passenger, a human man with a handcuff to a Vexian chain. They had captured someone. In the brief struggle, a human captain, Joran, was taken. Joran's face was pale. He had been part of the convoy to help place the mirror where it would be safe. Now he hung between worlds, a prize and an insult. Back in the plaza, the camp gathered what they could. The flag leaned against a broken lamp. Havel burned through orders and called for counsel. Ambassador Thal arrived in a shuttle, his expression sharp, and he demanded calm but his eyes showed worry. Warlord Sarn will use the mirror to demand power, he said. If he bends it to himself, whole systems will fall. Liane knelt by the cracked crate and touched a shard of bent metal. Her fingers hesitated. The mirror had looked to her like a living thing, now it was wounded and dangerous. She read through the last line on her slate and found a page about the mirror's maker. The text spoke of guilt and a promise: we locked this mirror where fear could not find it. We feared the wrong hands. Arya found the place where Joran had fallen. She looked at a smear of blood on the stone and felt a hard chill. She thought of the child she had lifted and of the man Sarn had taken. The war had not moved across the stars, it had come to this plaza where toys and flags and broken chairs lay. At night, as ships hummed above, Havel ordered a hunt. Scouts would track Sarn's route. A rescue team would try to take Joran back. Diplomats would try to talk to those in power who might stop Sarn without blood. The choices felt thin as thread. Under the same slow moon, Sarn sat in his cabin and held the mirror. He pressed his forehead to the metal and did not look at himself. He had won a thing, but it had not given him peace. He wanted more. He wanted proof that his fear would not come back to him like a thief. On Earth, the people slept in shifts and firelight. The flag still hung, torn at the edge. The mirror was gone. A man was taken. The archive had been opened and its secrets had tasted the night air. Old wars began to whisper their names again. Far away, voices in palaces spoke of treaties and power. Clocks turned. The galaxy tilted toward a decision. The echo of Earth's choice rolled like distant thunder. Smoke still hung in the streets like old cloth. Night lights blinked in the plaza where the flag leaned and the camp moved in slow circles. People patched wounds and whispered names. Commander Havel called the council in a tent that smelled of oil and coffee. The map on the table showed red lines of ships and a bright dot where Sarn had taken the mirror and Joran. The choice was simple in words and hard in meaning. Give the mirror to the Vexiant and hope treaties held. Hide it and risk Sarn selling it to the highest bidder. Or strike and take the mirror back, starting a war that might swallow cities. Voices rose and fell like waves. Liane spoke last. Her hands were steady. She had touched the mirror and felt its truth. It does not kill, she said. It shows what a mind hides. It can stop a leader who believes only in fear. But it will also break those who are not ready. We must not hand it to any people who will use it to punish. A colonel named Riss shook his head. Words will not save Joran if Sarn breaks him to get the mirror's maker notes. We trade. We get him back. Some faces in the room went pale. Trading the mirror meant losing it to a warlord. Havel closed his eyes. He thought of the flag, of the child in the plaza, of the man taken. He thought of promises made long before him. He had to pick a path that kept as many lives whole as he could. Havel chose a fourth way, not trade, not hide, not strike blind. He would show the galaxy something else, a defense that did not kill but would stop guns and take hunger out of a ship's mind. The fleet had a secret. In the quiet wars, they had built a thing called the Recode, a soft pulse that could slip into a machine's mind and change its rules. It could make a weapon refuse to fire, make a captain's helm obey mercy instead of murder. The Recode was not perfect. It worked best on older systems and on crews who had not been hardened by centuries of war. But it could stop a ship without burning it to ash. Havel planned a rescue that would use both stealth and the Recode. A small team would board Sarn's skiff, free Joran, and return. The fleet would not fire. Instead, the engineers would sing the Recode into Sarn's machine net and take his ship's bite away. If Sarn still fought, the fleet would answer with force. Arya volunteered. She wanted to run into the night and pull Joran back with her own hands. Liane went too, not as a soldier but as one who knew how the mirror spoke. Captain Mara picked the rest's steady hands and soft voices that knew how to move like shadows. They rode in a low skiff under a broken moon. Above, a Vexiant cruiser hummed, blind to the quiet key slipping past its nets. Havel watched the lines on his console and felt a thin tightness in his chest. He threw the switch. The Recode left the fleet like a slow breath. On Sarn's skiff, men slept between cables and scarred metal. The Recode crept in like a cool fog. Engines sighed. Weapon locks eased. Some consoles blinked and went quiet. Men woke confused and cursed at the calm that had settled where anger should be. Arya and her team dropped in the shadow of the hull. They moved fast and low, knives and silent ropes. A guard turned and found Arya at his throat. She spoke with a voice that had no room for lies, "We will not hurt you if you do not wake to hate." The guard froze, then lowered his weapon as his hands shook. They found Joran in a small cage under a rusted frame. His face was white and thin. He did not look like a hero. He looked like a man who had seen too many ships fall. Arya cut his bonds. Joran's eyes were bright with fear and relief. He could not remember much, a flash of metal, a face he knew, and then the mirror's light. He whispered, "It showed me my mother and the night she left. It made me want to stop hitting things." They moved to leave, but alarms screamed like storms. Someone on the skiff had woken and found the mirror half in Sarn's hand. The mirror, even damaged, hummed. It showed men their worst memories and cut through pride. Sarn's crew staggered, some weeping, some laughing like madmen. Sarn himself raised a blade. Arya pushed Joran toward the ladder. Lyanne stayed a moment more and reached toward the bent mirror. She read the metal with her mind like a book. The mirror's edge showed a truth that made her catch her breath. It was made not to punish but to stop leaders who could not see their own hands. Lyanne saw why the archive had hidden it. The words on her slate came back, "We locked this mirror where fear could not find it. We feared the wrong hands." The recode hit the skiff then. Engines died with a soft sigh. Weapons locked mid-spin. The craft drifted like a tired animal. Sarn cursed and hurled the mirror into the air to keep it safe as he tried to move the hull. A blast from a distant launcher struck the skiff's flank, not from the fleet, but from a raider who wanted chaos and profit. The skiff rocked and Sarn lost his grip. The mirror fell, spun, and hit the stone of a lower platform. It broke into two pieces with a sound like a bell. Arya caught one shard as it bounced. The other piece slid into a dark grate and vanished. For a long second, no one moved. Then Sarn laughed like a man who had lost a coin and won a crown. He dived into a small pod and left with the rest of his crew into the dark. He had Joran's cuff and a promise in his eyes. He had not taken the whole mirror, but he had taken enough. The rescue ran like a river back to the plaza. Joran leaned on Arya and said only, "Don't let them use it to make people do things." Havel looked at the shard that Lyanne held. It glowed faint in the tent light. Lyanne said, "It is still dangerous. It still shows truth. But it is broken. For now, it cannot hold a whole mind and reshape it." The news moved quick. The recode had worked. A whole cruiser had gone quiet without a single life lost. The fleet had proved a new kind of power, to stop a war without blood. Some cheered. Some trembled. Colonel Riss smiled coldly and whispered to a friend that such power could make kings of men. Far away, Admiral Koretha's face darkened. He had seen the recode at work. He understood that a new kind of rule had entered the galaxy, one that could break fear in machines. He also knew men love power as much as hunger. He did not know which was more dangerous. Under the flag, the people slept on edge. The mirror lay in pieces under careful hands. Joran had come back, but not whole. Sarn had fled, but not beaten. The recode had been used, and a door had opened that could not close again. Havel stared at the map where red lines showed movement. He had bought a small victory without blood, but the bargain of peace still needed courage. Some choices are made with blood. Some are made without it. The galaxy would now have to learn both. The next move would not wait. It would arrive like winter, cold and certain. Dawn on the ruined city came slow and gray. Above, the sky was full of ships. The Vexiant warlord Sarn had joined a breakaway fleet. Admiral Koretha had moved more ships closer. The human fleet stood ready between them like a thin wall. Commander Havel watched the maps. Red and blue lights moved and stopped. He felt the weight of every choice he had made. The recode hummed under his hands, ready to slip into enemy nets. The shard of the mirror lay in a guarded crate. It glowed faint and dangerous. Lyanne kept watch over it. Joran, returned but fragile, sat silent and stared at his hands. "Today we protect more than Earth," Havel said to his bridge. "We protect a promise, that a world can come home without being taken again." His voice was calm. The fleet answered with steady motions. Sarn did not plan to wait for talks. He wanted power. He wanted proof that the galaxy must bow before fear. He had the shard and a small band of hardened fighters. He moved like someone who believed a single blow could change a galaxy. The battle began with whispers. The recode slipped into the nets of Sarn's raiders. Engines warped. Weapon locks froze. Many raiders drifted uselessly, their crews confused. Sarn's captains cursed and tried to reboot. The recode slowed them but did not stop all. Koreth answered with old rules. His cruisers opened fire not to destroy but to cut engines and strip weapons from the raiders that still moved. Fleets met in flashes. The space above Earth filled with slow arcs of metal and drama. No one laughed. People died, but fewer than in wars that had burned whole worlds. On the ground, Havel sent small teams to hold the city and the archive. Arya led a squad to protect Lien and the shard. They dug trenches and set careful traps. Children were moved to shelters far from the plaza. The flag, patched and proud, flew over them all. Sarn knew he could not win the whole fight by force. He used the shard as a blade of rumor. He sent messages showing broken images the shard created, not whole memories but sharp pieces of suffering. Many who watched felt fear. Old grudges flared. Some smaller systems thought siding with Sarn would keep them safe. The galaxy's map trembled. Lien watched Sarn's broadcasts and felt the shard like iron in her chest. She had learned the mirror's truth: it did not only show fear, it could pull it open. A whole mind could be broken if it fell into the wrong hands. She thought of Joran and of the line in the archive, "We locked this mirror because minds are fragile when they meet themselves." She made a hard choice. The shard could not be kept forever in a vault where others would kill to take it. If the shard could help end this now, maybe some lives would be saved. Lien told Havel she would go as part of a boarding team to find Sarn and end his use of the mirror. Her voice was steady. No one asked her to go. She offered. Arya did not argue. She joined Lien without a question. They both knew risk. They both knew a truth that had nothing to do with war plans: sometimes people must act where machines cannot. The boarding team moved in a low skiff under the cover of the recode. Space was noisy with the breath of engines and the small cries of wounded ships. The skiff threaded through wrecks and glowed like a leaf in a river. Sarn's flagship was chaotic. The shard had worked on many, and the crew was divided. Some wanted to keep fighting, others, shaken by what they had seen in the mirror, wished to flee. Sarn stood at the center of the bridge, the shard clutched in one hand and a map in the other. When Arya, Lien, and their team boarded, alarms screamed and metal groaned. Men jumped up with blades. The recode moved through the ship and slowed some systems, but the bridge still had men who would kill to keep Sarn's prize. Lien stood before the shard and did what she had practiced: she let it show her a memory that was not hers. The mirror piece opened like a small wound. It showed a child on a hot step holding a tin toy. It showed a woman leaving with a bag and a soft hand on a cheek. Lien put the memory like a key into Sarn's mind. Sarn staggered. The shard showed him his first fear the night his family left, the face of a small boy he would not let himself feel. He had built an armor of cruelty around that boy. The shard peeled back the armor for a moment. In that moment, he saw himself as small and alone. He blinked, and for the first time, his rage became a question. Arya moved. She did not rush him with hatred. She did not strike. She took the shard from Sarn's hand and held it like something both precious and cursed. The bridge fell silent. Men on both sides looked at the thing and at each other. Sarn fell to his knees. He did not cry. He only looked at the shard and then at his hands, and many who had once followed him began to drop their weapons. The mirror had not broken him into pieces, but it had shown him himself enough that his power wavered. At the same time, Admiral Koreth faced Commander Havel in the sky. It could have been a duel of ships. Instead, Koreth chose a different path. He turned his flagship's guns away and sent a message to the Vexian fleet: stop. He offered a council, a chance to talk with the humans and with those who had suffered from old wars. The Vexian commanders whispered and thought of trophies and treaties. Many chose to hold fire and listen. The battle slowed. Ships drifted like tired animals. The recode held its silence like a shield. A voice from a Vexian captain asked in a language Havel could understand if they might surrender Sarn and open a trial. Havel agreed. He did not promise to hand over the shard as treasure. He promised a process, a council with witnesses, a place to lay out what the mirror had done and what the galaxy would do. Sarn was taken into custody. He did not resist much, the shard had already turned something inside him. Joran, who had been wounded and afraid, watched him go. Nothing in Joran's face said the mirror had fixed everything. But he had lived. That was something. Negotiations began under the flag. Ambassador Thal and Admiral Koreth, both weary and tired, sat in a rough tent and talked with Havel and his council. The Vexian demanded safety for their borders. The humans demanded respect and the right to guard their home. In the end, they signed a simple pact: Earth would be remembered, and no single power could own the mirror. The shard pieces would be divided, some to be studied under guard, some kept in neutral hands, and some buried where none could find them. The galaxy would not forget, because the story had spread, a world returned, a mirror found, and a fleet that chose to stop instead of to burn. The pact was imperfect. Some systems would grumble. Some leaders would still hunger for trophies. But the balance had shifted. Weeks later, the plaza was still scarred but clean. Children ran where men had fought. The flag flew steady in a softer wind. The mirror pieces were locked away in the archive, guarded by many hands and by law. Joran began to teach children games, and sometimes he looked at the sky like a man who has seen too much light. Arya stood on a low hill and watched a small human ship leave orbit. It carried a child and a teacher, a seed of the future. The fleet would stay for a while to help rebuild, then it would go, but with sentinels and envoys and the promise that Earth would not be forgotten again. Liane sat beside Arya and said nothing for a long time. Then she smiled a small, tired smile. "We saved a lot," she said. "Not everything. But we saved today." Arya nodded. The flag took the wind like a steady heart. She thought of all the people who had walked Earth before them, and of those who would come after. The world had been remembered, shown by a small light and kept by many hands. The galaxy had learned a rule: return is a thing to respect, not to steal. Far above, fleets turned back to their homes. Below, children learned the shape of a flag. The mirror's shards rested under locks and words. The story of Earth would spread not as a tool of fear, but as a warning and a promise: do not forget, and do not make the world small.